What is that?
Hello and welcome to the final program in the Total Transformation series. We've certainly been on a journey over the past 2 weeks, and this journey has involved focusing on various aspects of our physical health, the health of our minds, and some of the spiritual questions that many people grapple with today. And tonight we wrap up this series of our health spots. It will be a little different. We have a panel that will try their very best to answer your questions. So if there are any questions that have come to your mind from what you've heard during the health spots over the last 9 evenings, you know what I'm going to say. Please place them in the chat. The task of introducing this panel falls on Juliet, who has ably chaired the health spot night after night. So over to you, Juliet.
Thank you, Leroy. This evening's lineup includes 4 practitioners. Their combined skills, knowledge and expertise is first class. We have a paediatric doctor, consultant orthopedic surgeon, consultant physician in acute medicine and pharmacy, and a natural lifestyle practitioner. This evening's panelists will answer questions put to them. These are practical questions with a simple answer. So I'm going to go straight in and I'm going to introduce our first doctor, our first doctor, Dr. Alfred. I'd like to ask you a question. My child is a fussy eater. I'm worried that they are not getting enough nutrients. What should I do?
Thank you very much, Sister Juliet. That's a very good question, and it's a common problem we see in most children. Obviously, when children are born, they are fed with either breast milk or bottle feeds, and there's a time when they have to transition to solids, and that's a crucial period because that's when we need to get it right there and then, because that's when the faster eating business starts to develop. So it's important that when we are introducing solids, we make sure that we are more consistent with what we are doing. We have to remember that children's tastes keeps changing. And so therefore it's important that we give them, we introduce a variety of tastes and textures to them. It is not unusual for children to not like one particular food, but if that happens, then let's just move on and give them something different, something tasting a bit different, and maybe at one point come back to the previous food which we tried and which they didn't like, and then move on from there. It's also important that we need to keep the meal times very enjoyable, very participatory. So we need to eat together with our children, sit with them, and if possible, should be eating the same food like them, because children copy what adults are doing. So if they see that we are doing something different, or we are eating different foods while they're eating something else different, then they may want to try what's in your plate. Sometimes it may be better to maybe keep the children with their peers of the same age, because also they'll be copying what their fellow children are doing. This may be more helpful, for example, if they move into nursery, and find that everyone is doing the same thing, so that may help them to try other different foods. But if we were still worried that things are not working well, then obviously we can go to our GP, keep a food diary, and the GP may refer us to the dietitian, who can see what the children are eating. Because sometimes we may think that they're not eating enough, or they're not eating all the right nutrients in the foods they're eating. But the dietitian will be able to tell us that, yeah, at least there's, although we are worried, I think they're eating enough. And if not, then they may be able to maybe to provide some advice on certain foods we can try, or some supplements like multivitamins and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm swiftly moving on to Dr. Mwembe. Can I ask you the following question? Can I take all my prescribed medication at the same time? Can I take my vitamins with prescribed medication? Dr. Mwembe.
Right, it all depends upon what medications you're talking about.
I'm being quite
that
general,
question
really.
is,
So yeah.
Yeah, because that question is very complicated. It seems simple, but it's a very complex question.
Sure.
Because medications range from, like you mentioned, vitamins to things that actually modify the way the body works now. There are those which modify the way the body works over time, and those that do it now. There are things which, when you combine them, create poisons in the body, and those which actually produce opposite effects in the body. And some of them produce actions which add up in the body, and others cancel each other in the body. So it's a very loaded question. I mean, that's what I've been doing for the past almost 40 years. Pharmacology, okay. You can't answer it in one answer, just one word.
Right. So is it something that I need to discuss with my doctor if I'm taking minerals and vitamins? I know people try to shy away and don't want to tell the doctor, but obviously it's something that we should discuss.
Oh yes, yeah, because it's important that whoever is prescribing your medications understand what you are already taking and other medications you might be thinking of starting taking, because if they, as the prescriber, understand what they are doing or the implications of what they are doing, they'll be very careful what combinations they allow, and of course they will advise you what things to avoid combining. Like I'm saying, it's a very broad, concept we are teaching here, we are discussing, but even those which are so-called compatible, the basis upon which we claim they are compatible could be actually fallacious, because very few medicines are tested together with other medicines when we are doing our research and our studies to know whether they are safe or not. We usually study them either alone or compared to another singular, but to compare all medicines with all medicines and see how they interact in the body, it's a really broad subject.
It's quite a minefield, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to swiftly move on again to Dr. Sham. What impact can lifestyle have on my health? Dr. Sham.
Thank you. I would like to say that lifestyle medicine is one of the very upcoming fields, because there is great realization, not only among the doctors and the health professionals, but also in the general public, that we are what we eat. So it's very important, and people are realizing that we need to look after our health. So lifestyle medicine is basically doing the right things which are good for the body, that includes food, exercise, sleep, everything. Human body is very wonderfully made, and it takes a lot of abuse before the body fails, and it heals very well. And as long as the body is in right conditions, the body heals very well. Imagine you got a car and you have to use petrol for that. But one day you feel like putting diesel in it. Would it work? No, it will not. And you need to have regular service for the car. Look at water for the body. 2/3 of our body is water. And I've told you the other day that joint cartilage and the discs in the back, they have 80% water. It is about a common sense to replace the body with water, because there is 2/3 and we keep losing, we have to replace it. Look at lungs. So if you go out into for a walk, you feel the fresh air and you feel refreshed. But if you're in a crowded place, you don't feel refreshed. You go to a smoky room, you don't feel refreshed. And sometimes when you're eating and laughing or joking, sometimes you choke because the food is trying to get into the lungs. But food doesn't belong there. That's why it's the body's mechanism of getting it out. So we need to really understand that our bodies are extremely important, and we get only one body in our lifetime. You can say, well, you have a car and you have a beautiful car. If you don't look after it very well, after a few years, you may have to change. But then it's not the same with our body. Imagine if you've gone to a doctor and the doctor examines you and it causes pain in your tummy or in your knee or in your hip. It's unlikely that the doctor has caused the pain. There's probably something in your body that's causing pain, because I don't know many doctors who do that, purposely causing pain. So if there is something wrong with causing pain in your body, it is probably something wrong with the body. And if you have ever felt guilty or feeling cautious about what you've been eating, and if this week has helped you, the last 2 weeks has helped you, it's time to look at yourself. I'm sure lifestyle has a great role in our health, and our lifestyle is everything when it comes to health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sham. Jackie, it's your turn. What are the best times to eat my meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
It depends on your timetable, really, on your commitments and whether you're taking the children to school before eating or eating before you take the children to school. But the earlier you can eat your breakfast, the better. By 10 o'clock, you should have eaten your breakfast, really, to allow and make sure that the breakfast is a nice big breakfast involving all the food groups, so that you are not hungry again till 4 to 5 hours later, making sure that you have lots of water in between. If you're having lunch or whether you're not having lunch, it's according to your timetable. The principle is leave 4 hours between your meals and try not to eat big meals after 6 p.m. So if you're going to eat after 6 p.m., make it a light meal so that the body can digest it in time to have a good night's rest. Otherwise, it creates a problem of sleeplessness, insomnia in some cases, or oftentimes, if you are not doing anything after you eat but sitting down, then it is stored as fat. Sometimes we get lower bowel gas, acid reflux, all kinds of problems, all because as the day goes on, your metabolism slows down. Therefore, if you're having a big meal late at night, your body's not in a capacity to break it down, which then breaks your body down instead. So the principle is 4 hours between your meals, drinking water between up to 30 minutes before your meal, so that you're not diluting those hydrochloric acid that help to break your food up. And so if you're waking up early enough to have early breakfast, let's say 7 or 8, that's wonderful. Try not to exceed 10 a.m. for breakfast, and try not to exceed 6 p.m. for a large dinner.
Thank you. So I'm just looking at the ratio quickly. So 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock would be about fine. Is that okay?
Yes,
okay.
that's reasonable.
So that's a new song. Thank you. 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. Thank you, Jackie. I'm going to move swiftly on again to Dr. Alfred. Can children get COVID-19, or is it just a cold for them?
Thank you very much, sister. Yeah, to answer that question, yes, they can get COVID, and they are getting COVID-19. When you say, is it just a cold for them? COVID-19 symptoms, they are cold-like symptoms. So children, they do present, or they have the same symptoms adults do. They have a fever, they have a cough, may have a runny nose. We know adults also get loss of taste, loss of smell. The same also symptoms do happen in children, but obviously the younger the child, they may not be able to tell us that they've got lack of taste or smell, but bigger children certainly. So yeah, children are getting COVID. the only thing to add is that the children who get COVID, most of them, the majority, the symptoms are mild. So they're not getting very severe symptoms or severe illnesses, which we are seeing in adults. So in the children, PICU or ITU for children, for example, they are not full of COVID children. It's mainly the adults. So the children, they tend to get better quite quickly. But any age can get COVID. So we are seeing even babies who are only days old, if their moms, when they are delivering, have COVID, they do pass COVID to these babies. And we're finding babies who are a few days old having COVID as well. And again, most of them, their symptoms are mild. There's a small proportion of children, when they get COVID, they become very, very ill. But luckily, it's a small proportion. And there's I'm sure you may have heard from news, there's something called PIMS, where children who get COVID, it's affecting other systems of the body. So they do get like a multi-system illness where the liver is involved, the blood system is involved, the heart is involved. So these are but it's a very tiny population, and these children do get very ill, and they're the ones who end up going to ITU for children.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Alfred. Dr. Mwembe, I'm going to ask you the following question. I'm feeling low, tearful, and can't cope. I don't want antidepressants. What should I do?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, not least because not all as many of us would know, there is no pill for every ill. So it's good to understand that when you feel low like that, perhaps you need to go back a little bit, like, sit down and go a few hours, days before to try and understand why you've ended up where you are now. Could it be a change in your life circumstances? Maybe continuing or depressing information, news from your family, from your loved ones? Could it be because you are going through a tough experience in life, job losses, lack of love or loss of love and relationships and things like that? So it's good to try and go back to try and understand what precipitated this low mood that you're going through. And again, it's good to talk to somebody or confide in somebody whom you know is likely to help you go back, as it were, to understand why you are in that situation. Where all else fails, and you maybe don't have a buddy, you have no accountability partner, as we have been taught during the past 2 weeks, it's good to go to a professional counselor or somebody who can help you go back in time, if you'd like, and help you to understand what's going on. Because in the best way to deal with such a situation is to try and remove the cause if you can. And if you can't remove the cause, with the help of somebody, you'll be advised, helped to face it or deal with it, so that it doesn't leave permanent scars on you. In all fairness, even if you had to have scars, the way some of you will understand, I believe that a scar is a sign that you have healed. Because if it's an open wound, it's festering, you don't heal, it just carries on and on and on and on. So when you have a scar, it shows that you've been there, done that, and you survived. Meaning you'll be able now better to help somebody else who goes through a similar experience as you have done.
Thank you for that.
So seek help, go back a little bit in time and see if you can find out where it's almost like sometimes we do when you've forgotten a brilliant idea you had, and you kind of go back to where you were when you first thought of it, and you realize, you catch the wave, is it, and then carry on with life. That's how some of the situations that cause depression actually happen. You have to find out as much as you can about potential causes, precipitating factors, and try and deal with them or remove them if possible.
Thank you, Dr. Mwembe. Dr. Sham, top tips for a healthier lifestyle.
Thank you. I will say them out. I'll try and be as slow. So number one, Eat a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans. So make sure you have whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and pulses, such as beans and lentils, a major part of your usual daily diet. Be of healthy weight. Keep your weight within the healthy range and avoid weight gain in adult life. Number 3, be physically active as part of everyday life. Walk more and sit less. Number 4, limit consumption of red and processed meat. Eat no more than moderate amounts of red meat, such as beef, pork, lamb. Eat little, if any, processed meat. But from me, I would recommend no meat at all. For those of you who eat meat, you have to cut it down. Number 5, limit consumption of sugar-sweetened drinks. Drink mostly water and unsweetened drinks. Number 6, you must limit alcohol consumption. It is best not to drink alcohol. Number 7, do not use supplements for preventing cancer and other diseases. You should aim to meet nutritional needs through diet alone. Number 8, limit consumption of fast foods and other processed foods high in fat, starches, or sugars. So limiting these things will help you maintain a healthy weight. For mothers, please breastfeed your baby if you can. It's a good habit and it's good for both the mother and the child. Remember to take good rest, and the best time to sleep is at night. The earlier you go to bed, the better it is. And exercise, walking, fresh air, all these things are extremely important. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Sham. Jackie, is water fasting or juice fasting good to lose weight or used to flush toxins out of the body?
Okay, there are two different things, losing weight and cleansing. I usually advise that people shouldn't focus necessarily on their weight, but should focus first on cleansing the body and then building it up with all the good things that the body desperately needs. And when we do this, the weight will fall off all by itself. Focus on health, good health, and restoration of health, physically, mentally, and spiritually, rather than just focusing on weight. Because what tends to happen is that the weight will drop off, but the problem is still there. And very soon after you lose the weight, it comes straight back, sometimes double. So focus on cleansing. If you're going to cleanse, doing a juice fast for a cleanse is fantastic. If you want a water-only fast, that's also permissible. That's absolutely fine. But what we've discovered doing the two, in fact, we helped a young lady recently do the two. She's used to water fasting. So she did water fasting and she felt great. She did it for a day and a half, and then she felt great. And then later on that afternoon, she had fruits. Then she decided she's going to try juice fasting using juices, herbs, and water. And she found that more toxins came out of her body during that time than it did with just water. What did she do? In the morning, she had lemon, and then she had lemon water, and then she had pure water. Then later on that morning, she had a concoction of herbs called Swedish bitters. And this she found really worked to really remove a lot of toxins from her body. And she said they were very pungent. In the afternoon, instead of having a regular lunch, she had a smooth move, which we shared with you just yesterday. Smooth move was nice. She felt slightly hungry, but the smooth move picked her right back up and she was able to go for a nice walk. In between each of these drinks, she had water. At the end of the day, she was very refreshed. She said though she was fasting, because of the juices, she was still feeling upbeat. And she was very surprised at the fact that of what had actually come out of her, considering the fact that she had just done a water fast the week before. So it depends on the person, depends on the circumstances. Be careful of doing water fast if you are prone to low blood sugar dips. Again, had experiences with an individual who had a sudden dip in blood sugar and therefore had an episode. So it's very important. If you're in doubt, juice fasting is a lot safer.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. I'm going to ask one more question to Dr. Mwembe. Flu vaccine. If I haven't got flu, why do I need the vaccine?
It's a very complicated question, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not everybody who needs the flu vaccine. That's the honest truth. It's only people whose immunity generally is very low. Now, that's the contradiction in terms, because you would think that for one's immunity to be low is because they don't have the building blocks to build their immunity. Because naturally we are designed for life, as what Dr. Shaya mentioned earlier. We are designed for life, and a good long life at that. So when things go wrong, the body occasionally needs to be, should we say, stimulated, to be jolted up a little bit, to produce the things that protect it. It works well in some people, but not everybody. As a matter of fact, some people don't handle flu vaccines at all. They become unwell, some react because of it's not just the vaccine you are getting, it's the excipients, the things that are used to make it to that solution and to deliver it to the body and to transport it to, throughout the body, the bloodstream and all that. So an individual could react to any one of the components or all of them. So personally, I do not recommend it. That somebody who could build their immunity in other ways, like by diet, by lifestyle, by how much sleep you have, the water you drink, and all these things that have been discussed already, it is more preferable, and there are no side effects to building your immunity in other ways than getting just the flu vaccine. Because unfortunately for us, the concept of a pill for every ill applies to vaccines as well. There are people who burn their candle at both ends and think just by getting a vaccine, they are covered, when actually they are doing everything else which is wrong, which doesn't build their immunity and strength of body and physiology, and they expect that that vaccine is going to protect them. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And yet, when you build your immunity holistically, by looking at more than just the 8 areas of life that we've been discussing over the past 2 weeks, you will actually find that flu doesn't attack you. I personally have never had a flu jab. And when I get flu, usually it's half a day, if you want to call it that. I'll get it from somebody today, and by tomorrow this time it has disappeared, because my lifestyle, my diet, my mindset, everything about me is geared towards preventing these things from catching a foothold in me. So yeah, it's important that we build our immunity rather than try to cheat our bodies into thinking it can produce antibodies against a problem which is so widespread and will come back anyway. At best, it's guesswork, because whatever we use as a flu vaccine for this year is developed thinking of what could be the most likely variant of that flu organism, the virus, that year. It doesn't cover all the variants of flu that you are likely to get in that year. So again, it's like a blanket cover guesswork, which try to outsmart the germs. It doesn't always work.
Thank you for that. I've picked up 3 beautiful quotes this evening. One is, our bodies are designed for life. 2, yes. Scars that heal. Our bodies, the illnesses that we go through are designed that scars can be healed. And the other one that I like is, no pill for every ill. Great quotes. I'm going to be using those. I want to thank you, the panelists, for being on tonight. You were put on the spot and you've answered each of the questions beautifully. I want to thank you for that. Thank you again for the explanations given. thanking you for sharing your skills and your knowledge and your practice with us. Thank you very much. I'll now hand you over to Lesmond Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Juliet, for managing the health panels throughout the entire period. You've done an excellent job, and thanks indeed to all of our panelists tonight. We now come to our mental health section. And just before we start, I'm just going to launch a poll for you that we were trying to do earlier. Okay, there's a couple of questions. Can everybody see that? If you'd like to answer those questions for us now, they're only going to be up for a short period of time. Okay, they'll be up there for a short period of time. Thank you. Okay, so this evening, our presenter is Paul Elliston. And Paul is a trained counsellor with 22 years of mental health practitioner. Although he's a trained counsellor, he's not in counselling at the moment, but he's a mental health practitioner also. And of those 22 years, 11 years he served managing people and working with people. Tonight, we're thinking about something that has been mentioned throughout the entire time of the series. There was a gentleman in the US. He was a cartoon artist, and he got fired from his job. He was told by his editor that he was hopeless and that he really needed to think about another line of work. The gentleman was torn and thought, no, he's not going to give up. He's going to press on. He pressed on, and he used something called positive thinking. That's what we're going to look at today, positive thinking. That gentleman, though controversial, Mr. Walt Disney, began his career because of his positive thinking. Paul's going to speak to us tonight about positive thinking. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you so much, Leslie, and thank you for your introduction. I will be aiming to be succinct because we have so much to go through, and we've been benefited already by the actual responses of the medical team, which has actually benefited me in some of the answers that's been given. So I'm going to share my screen at this time as I hopefully share some slides with you. And I'm just going to check if you're able to see the slides. Okay. All right, so the topic is positive outlook in life. Positive outlook in life. And what I like to do at the beginning is to actually just get some simple definitions so that at least we're on the same plane of understanding around the term positive outlook. And I like this simple explanation. It states it's a way of thinking positively rather than negatively. It doesn't have to be through rose-colored glasses or not being realistic about the trials of life. But it's about looking for the good, for the opportunities in a situation rather than the bad. And the beginning of the definition talked about positive thinking. And of course, that's an essential factor in having a positive outlook. And I just want to just share one definition of positive thinking from Wiki University. And it states, positive thinking can be defined as the method to achieve health and happiness. And I want you just to note that it's a method to achieve health and happiness. It concentrates on positive qualities such as inner peace, strength, love, joy, and happiness. Positive thinking is a mental technique that must be practiced wisely. It should not be misused to repress feelings such as sadness, depression, loneliness, etc., or problems that you want to get out of. Positive thinking must be used sensitively and healingly. Now, positive thinking is not ignoring life's challenges, pretending that they don't exist. It's not burying your head in the sand. It's not wishing a problem away. It's not blind optimism. Late psychiatrist Viktor E. Frankl, he was an Austrian Holocaust survivor in a concentration camp, Auschwitz, which you will know the name of quite well. And he wrote a number of books. One of his most famous book is Man's Search for Meaning. And when he was in the concentration camp, he was able to reflect on those people who died not through the gas chambers, not necessarily even through starvation, but for having a false optimism. They would believe that they would get help and rescue in a month's time, or maybe in 6 months' time, they would be out of their situation. But when that time came and passed, then he would see many times the optimism in these people's minds just disappear. And then they would lose hope. And so positive thinking is not blind optimism. We will look at that just in a little while. Positive thinking is a method to achieve health and happiness. Now, we referred to that just a bit earlier in the definition, and we're going to look at that. We're going to look at how it actually benefits us in terms of our physical health, our mental health, and how it contributes to our happiness. So we're looking at physical health. Now, researchers led by Dr. Segenström at the University of Kentucky analyzed over 300 separate studies done in the previous 30 years within the psychology community. And as you can see, that was quite an extensive period that was looked over. The conclusion of it was that positive thinking helps reduce the risk of immune system breakdown and can contribute to building it back up by reducing the duration of emotional stress on the body. Other studies, numerous ones, studies, for example, conducted by Harvard School of Public Health and others, show that positive thinking actually reduces the risk of dying from cancer, heart disease, stroke, respiratory disease, and infection. And I just want to emphasize it reduces the risk, doesn't prevent it, but reduces the risk. And any little help that we can get to reduce the risk of these common modern day diseases is of benefit to us. Now, positive thinking, having a positive outlook in life, actually helps reduce anxiety. And that's quite well known to us all. But what probably isn't as well known is that positive thinking broadens your sense of possibilities. The landmark study of positive psychology researcher Barbara Fredrickson at the University of North Carolina discovered positive thinking broadens your perception of possibilities to solve problems. And what that means is that you may be feeling, if you're feeling currently trapped, feeling that there is no way out of your problem, feeling hopeless, that you feel inadequate, and that despair is washing over you. In that state of mind, your ability to actually perceive opportunities and solve problems is greatly restricted. What the researcher Barbara Fredrickson found out was that positive thinking opens your mind to possibilities that you would not detect when you are thinking negatively. On top of this, the positive thinking improves your ability to build skills, and that was another of her discoveries. Now, positive thinking promotes happiness. Positive people are happier and are less likely to engage in unhealthy behavior. This was a study from 3 researchers who studied over 275,000 people to determine whether happiness caused success or vice versa. And in essence, the findings of the research supported what they called the build hypotheses, which states that over time, positive emotions enable people to build personal, social, physical, and intellectual capital. Positive thinking enables you to create a positive emotion such as happiness, joy, resilience, and contentment. And these in turn make it easier for you to have a positive outlook on life. The people with positive outlooks tend to interact with others and with life's challenges in a positive way. And as a result, positive people are more likely to acquire favorable life circumstances, including health and wealth. Now, is positive thinking necessarily easy? No. If positive thinking was easy, almost everybody would be doing that consistently. Positive thinking can be very challenging. Now, when I actually looked at the topic of positive outlook in life, I thought that I was a good candidate for this because my mindset is generally positive. In fact, I smile regularly. And in my experience, I remember having somebody who was upset with me. And I asked them, why are you upset with me? And they said, because I smile too much. So my mindset was one of actually positive thinking. But have I, throughout my life, actually lived in a state of positive thinking? No. Have I actually gone through a period of my life where I was depressed, where I wished to end my life, where things seemed hopeless? Yes, I did. And there are many reasons for us why positive thinking is a challenge. Media is one. And one of the biggest challenges for us in the media is body image pressures. If you do not have a body shape like Aphrodite or a sculptured body like Hercules, you are left and made to feel inadequate. You're really then called to actually buy these products, do these actions in order to actually fit a society stereotypical mold and model. And that's impacting particularly on our young people, but not only them, on us in general. We have to fight against that. Work issues, unemployment concerns, excessive work demands, and especially in our global pandemic situation, these are very much escalated factors. The economic crisis. If you're at risk of losing your job, if you're struggling with your finances, if actually one of the other factors is that increased domestic violence, increased domestic incidences are also an effect basically resulting from the pandemic. Illness, bereavement. All these can actually make having a positive outlook, a positive thinking more difficult. So I'm not saying that it is easy, but you know what? The best things in life to seek are not necessarily easy. And so that is something that we need to strive for and move towards. So how can we do that? The first thing is to define your why. Why do you want to have positive thinking? Well, Paul, you can say, Paul, well, you've already shown me. It's beneficial for my physical health. It's beneficial for my mental health. It's key in my striving for happiness. But even more specific, what is your why? How does you having a positive influence, positive thinking, influence those around you? What impact is your mental attitude having on those you love? And maybe that is a why for you, that you want to actually have a positive influence, not merely for yourself, but for those around you. You need to find your why and connect it to that emotion. When you found the right why, then you will actually have a sense of an intense emotion that's attached to that particular why. And that emotion is your engine. It's your fuel to actually get you going in making the changes that you need. Seek help. Admit that if you've been struggling with this, that you can't do this by yourself. And one of the things that you need to actually recognize is your company. Maybe the company that you are in encourages you to actually talk and to speak negatively, and to complain or to look at and focus at those things that you yourself feel make you feel helpless. The other is visualize, talk, or write positive. And I want to expand on that. There was a study at King's College in London where they looked at 102 subjects diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorders. And they divided these subjects into 3 categories. They put one group and they advised that group to actually practice generating mental images of positive outcomes to worry topics. The second group was to practice generating verbal descriptions of positive worry-related outcomes, basically related to the things that they were particularly worried about. And then the third group was to practice generating positive images unrelated to any current concerns. Well, the outcome of it was that all of the groups were significantly benefited by these practices. And the conclusion was that it doesn't matter whether you are visualizing a positive outcome, whether you are talking in terms of yourself about the physical outcome, or writing down the physical outcomes, all are far better than negative thinking. Practice daily. Develop the habit, and this is so important. With regards to developing the habit, you've probably heard that a habit actually takes about 30 days to develop. Well, that's not exactly true. We always are learning more and more. The findings of a study by researcher Philippa Lally shows that it takes anywhere between 18 days and 254 days to develop the habit. And it depends on the habit that you're developing. It also depends on you who is developing that habit. But on average, it takes about 2 months. Now, they say practice is the mother of learning. You need to actually put in place just a simple task, which we're going to look at just a bit later. In order to develop a habit, we need to do it daily. And if you do it daily, the reward of once you have developed that habit is that then it becomes a lot easier to do. In fact, the longer you do this, the less you actually mentally think about doing it. It's less energy to do it. And so we need to spend time with positive people. We spoke about that. Open yourself up to humor. When was the last time you had a good belly laugh? I mean, that is scientifically and medically proven to actually benefit yourself. Humor as well. If you're around people who don't really engage in humor, I'd say find somebody who you can have a good laugh with. Identify your areas of negativity. Just write down, maybe keep a diary. Start every day on a positive note. And finally, and this is one of my favorites, practice gratitude. Practice gratitude. Now, I do that every day. In fact, I have a book kind of like this. You probably won't be able to see it, but I have a small book. And for 3 years, I've been writing in that book in terms of reminding myself to be grateful. You know, as long as you are alive, there is at least one thing that you can choose to be grateful for, and you know what that is. Practicing gratitude has so much benefits. Having the attitude of gratitude is a key factor in terms of developing a positive outlook in life. And I want to leave you just with a thought that comes from wise words, ancient wise words that can be found in a book of the Bible, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, which says these: be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. That's really interesting. Paul, it's kind of in line with, I guess, what your colleague was saying to you. How do you actually stay positive when you're going through a really stressful situation? For example, somebody's about to lose their house, somebody's child's been knocked down, or whatever the case may be. How do you stay positive in a real stressful situation?
Yes, it's a very good question. I liken it to if I can draw another parallel. When you look at maybe weight power lifters at the Olympics, I don't know if you've ever seen them, and they're lifting incredible weights. They're putting so much pressure on themselves, and you look at them and you know that they just didn't get there. They had to train and practice and prepare. And that's how it is in life. So one of the things that I can say is that get an umbrella, because it's going to rain, especially in Manchester. Trouble will come. Problems is going to happen. You're not going to go through a long life without this happening many times. So what you need to do is to prepare. And so that's the key. That's the thing that I had to learn. So I had to learn to develop habits that would actually prepare me for when life's challenges and difficulties come my way. So the gratitude habit, that was something that was difficult for me to develop. But once developing it, it helped provide a resilience, an outlook of looking for those things that can help and benefit. The habit of actually identifying those people who I can go to who will give me wise advice. There's some people who you go to when you want to pour out your heart. They're the worst people that you could go to, because you end up feeling worse than when you arrive there.
So be careful who you're choosing. Is that what
be careful who you choose. So prepare ahead of time is
interestingly, kind of ties in with what you just said, literally. So then how do you know when you're actually being positive?
Okay. It's very good. That's a good one, actually. I think it's one of the things of being conscious self-aware,
Mm.
and determined. So it doesn't come by accident.
Mhm.
It comes by design.
Okay.
And so you have to actually make a decision that this is something that you are going to work, craft,
Mm.
practice, and develop by design, because this is so important. It impacts every asset of your life.
Okay.
And so since this is so important, it is important to prioritize that and having that conscious awareness of it. So in terms of how do you know, then it looks at, if there's one word I can summarize this on, and it's not being flippant, the word is love.
Okay.
The word is love. Love is the most positive attitude and outlook that you can have. And
Thanks,
if
Paul.
you are loving, then you know that you have a positive outlook.
Okay. Want to get a couple more questions in before we finish. So hearing what you said, is positivity a relative thing? I.e., does it mean different things to different people?
I think in some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. We, as human beings, have biological differences, but in the main, there are certain things that are essential to us.
Mm-hmm.
We can't necessarily say that some human beings, as you heard earlier, can manage on water and some not. There are certain things that are essential to our existence.
Yeah.
And it's similar in terms of our need, how we function and are optimized as a human being. So in terms of evaluating positive thinking,
Mm-hmm.
There are certain key elements that are important to us all. So as I've said, in terms of one is some can actually take pleasure in hurting and harming people.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be still pushed to say that that's positive thinking.
Okay.
So you wouldn't define it by the pleasure that you get necessarily. It's more in terms of a recognized outcome of benefits for both you and for those you are impacting.
Brilliant. So this, I'm going to tie a couple of questions together because they all fit into what you just literally said now. So is it true some people will practice positivity thinking that they're positive, but they're positively wrong? And then the other question to tie in with that is this one. Can I learn positivity as I tend to see things negative in many ways?
Yes. So in terms of the first one, most definitely. Gave the example of Viktor Frankl. Can you turn things around? One classic name, if I mention, is Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
And now she was raised in a family where she was so poor that in school she wore potato sacks made out in terms of clothes to go to school. Mm-hmm. She was sexually abused from the age of 9. Mm. She hadn't lost a child in her early teens. Mm. And it just looked so bleak for her, but yet she was the rest is history for Oprah. So what brought about that change? Well, Oprah said that she kept a journal and wrote in the journal about her experience. She focused on an outcome that helped motivate her moving forward. She practiced gratitude. She learned that practice and that habit every single day. So can you, regardless of what circumstances you're in, learn to actually move from a negative attitude to a positive outlook? Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Is it easy? Not necessarily so.
Tied directly into
Worth
that.
it?
Then. Tied
Yes.
directly into that is, has DNA and environmental conditions, how do they, has DNA and environmental conditions govern our level of positivity? How do they govern our level of positivity?
Yes, excellent point. Excellent. In terms of my experience, I have in the area, my field, dealing with people with severe and enduring mental illnesses. So that includes people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, bipolar affective disorder, clinical depression.
Well, unfortunately, I've run over time, so I do apologise.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
I do apologise for that.
Not a
It's
problem.
been signalled that I'm being naughty. So
Okay, I can just mention one last thing. Dr. Neil Nedley. He actually he specializes in supporting people with clinical depression, etc. Can they be helped? Yes, they can.
Excellent. Really appreciate that, Paul. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's been great speaking with you. All the very best. I'm going to hand over now to Alan Hush, who's going to lead us in our philosophical questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Les.
Hello, hi, and good evening to everyone. It's good to be with you this evening, and welcome to the final section in tonight's presentation, in tonight's program, looking at some philosophical questions. I'm very happy to have with us on the Zoom platform tonight, Beulah Plunkett, who is going to be answering some fundamental, basic but fundamental, meaningful questions. And I'll share those questions with you in just a little while. Beulah is a professional educator, and she specializes in personal development within the context of education. So she's a professional educator, and she's joining us from Birmingham this evening. And so the three fundamental but basic questions we're going to review tonight, I'll share them with you in the first instance, and then we'll look at them and ask Beulah the questions one at a time, and we'll have interactions as we go through. Question one is, don't you think the world is a better place now than centuries ago? Do we think the world is a better place now than 100 or 200 years ago? The second question we will reflect upon is this not giving us hope that humanity will make this world a better place without God? Can science or the advancement in scientific knowledge mean that we can have hope that humanity can make this world a better place? And the last question we'll be reflecting upon this evening is then, why does religion teach us then that God will destroy the world and create it anew? Why does religion teach that God will destroy the world and create it anew? And so, Beulah, I would like to ask you the first question. Don't you think the world is a better place now than centuries ago?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that very interesting question, Alan. And it's a question that really is quite significant because it sends you in search of the purpose of life. It's that type of question. So in some respects, we could say the world is in a better place, but also we need to ask, is the world a better place? Better is one of the words that we have to tackle in a question like this. What do we mean by better? So if we look at what is it that makes life better for people, we could look at things like having God in your life, a family, friends, and most of all, love in your life for yourself and your family and others around you. Then there's safety. Everybody wants to be safe. That makes life better. Kindness, freedom to move around, and respect. That makes life better. Water, food, shelter, so that we can survive. Education, employment, and also direction and purpose and progress. All those things make life better. And I think none of us would want to give up any of those things in order to live our lives effectively. So then I thought, let's look at the opposite of that then. And what makes life really unbearable and sad. And things like war, crime, lack of food, being treated badly, unfairly, discriminated against, no home, poor health, no family or friends, no job, no future. So those things can make the world a very bad place. So what do we say then? What do we say with all the progress that we've done? What has happened and what is better? When we compare the 21st century with the 20th century, we see also that there's some good things and some bad things that happened there. Princess Diana died. A lot of people found that to be a very painful thing. And we know a lot about her, and we know the sad times and the good times. She was a fairy tale princess. Nelson Mandela was freed after 28 years. It was a good thing, but it was a terrible thing when he got locked up. And apartheid was a disgraceful system, but it happened. Britain voted for Brexit. Some people think it's a terrible tragedy, and some people think it's a great and wonderful thing. The election of the first Black USA president, Obama, and then, of course, the election of Donald Trump. So we've got quite a mixture there. So my view is that maybe the world isn't a better place when we look at it through the eyes of reality, fairness, equality, and love. We see that so many people are suffering around the world, and while some of us are okay, is this how it's going to be, that it's all right for some people to suffer so that some people can live a good and healthy and happy life? Is that what we should accept? And is that what we mean when we say this world is a better place? Because if you were poor, homeless, and starving, would you say this world is a better place? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that creates a challenge in the mind. The Bible tells us that suffering and destruction are the forces of evil. So those of us who look at it through the eyes of a biblical worldview see that the world isn't a better place, and see that it's going downhill. So that question is, do I think it's a better place? Personally, I don't. Okay, I'm not starving and dying, and I'm not ill, praise the Lord, but I see a lot of sadness around me. And also I'm confronted by COVID-19. And I think that thousands have lost their lives, millions worldwide. Jobs have been lost or they're on furlough. Social distancing. I went out today to the shops, and I'm always forgetting that I'm not supposed to try and talk to people and be friendly anymore, because you've got to keep your distance. And I find that very difficult. And calling things the new normal is a bit sad. So we know that things will never be the same again after COVID-19, but we don't know exactly what we're heading for and how good or bad it's going to be. But this current pandemic has definitely shown us in this time how bad things can get.
Okay, Beulah, can I just come back with another question?
Yes.
I'm picking up that there are, in general, there are aspects to existential life that have improved, i.e. education, etc.
Yes.
And the general structures in society could have improved over time. Do you think the advance in scientific knowledge, i.e. the communication realm, has improved life today as it was 150 years ago? Do you think we are happier today with mobile phones, instant communication, with TV screens, instant news? Do you think we're happier now with that? Do you think the world is a happier place because of that, or do you have another view?
Well, my take on this is that are we wanting happiness for everybody, or for just some? If we don't want it for everybody, we just think it can only be for some, then you can say the world is a better place, because some people have access to all these things and they are very happy. But some people do not and cannot see how conceivably they're ever going to, and they are not happy. And to them, the world isn't a better place. So it's a question that means that you have to make some decisions about where your focus is going to be. Is it going to be inclusive or exclusive? What kind of world is a better world? Is a better world a place where we have the haves and the have-nots, and we say, this is how it is, stratification rules the day, and if you just were born in the wrong place, the wrong time, and you could be the wrong gender or the wrong color or the wrong nationality or whatever, this is what you get for being who you are, and this is what you get for being who you are. And if it's good, take it and be happy. If it's not, live with it.
Okay, thank you. I'm just reflecting upon my own experience, and I'm just old enough to remember living without mobile phones.
Yes.
And computers.
Yes.
And if I had to be honest with myself, philosophically reflecting upon life, I would probably say I am more stressed now than I was during the first 20 years of my life.
Yes, yes.
Would you share that? Would you share that experience, or would you have a different view?
I could share that experience for the simple reason we seem to take on more because of these gadgets. We've been told by the sellers of these gadgets that it's going to make life better. It's like this. I don't have a dishwasher because I don't like them. The reason why is because when I got my dishwasher the first time, I realized I had to part wash the dishes before I could put them in the dishwasher. And I thought, well, what's the point of that? If I've got to do all this work, that's exactly what I'm trying to get out of. So I got rid of it. I thought, I'm not having a dishwasher because I'm going to have to wash up anyway. I might as well wash up. So I say that to say this. The gadgets kind of give you a false sense of security. You think because you have a computer, you're going to get more work done, but I don't know what that's supposed to mean. You know, you end up doing more work, but I don't know if you get more work done. And so you take on more work, don't you? You take on more work because you've got a computer.
Okay, I understand. Yes, very interesting, very interesting. In the interest of time, I've got half an eye on the time and half an eye on the screen. And let's move on to the second fundamental question.
Yes.
Which is, okay, we've talked a little bit about scientific advancement, etc. Is this not giving us hope that humanity will make this world a better place eventually? Do you think we'll find ourselves in a better place, less stress, less disease, more happiness, security? What are your thoughts around that question?
Is that with God or without God?
Well, the question is, do we have any hope that humanity can make this world a better place? We can look at it from two perspectives. Take it without God.
Okay. One of the things that I think about is that whatever good that man, bad people turn it into evil. For example, mobile phones. When Apple launched it, they said it was going to transform the world, and it has done. But sadly, criminals are able to take it and make full advantage of its possibilities and evade. And there are crimes now that were never thought of 50 years ago or 30 years ago. They weren't even conceivable. But with the mobile phone, these crimes can happen every day. So sadly, the mobile phone was meant to be a good thing, but without God, good things will be turned into bad things. Then you have the internet. Well, what can I say? Here we are, we're on the internet, and it's doing a very, very good thing here, that we can have this conference and learn and share. But sadly, hundreds and thousands of people are using the dark side of the internet and doing very cruel things on it and broadcasting it. And it's become like an epidemic or a pandemic, abuse has. So you have to wonder then, what is this? When they invented drones, they were massive things. Now people are letting them go up into the heavens and trying to crash airplanes. Cars, I didn't get time to find out the stats on cars, kill numerous thousands of people per day. But they were all invented. They were all scientifically dreamt up for a good cause. And then whatever God has created in a world without God, whatever God has created, if people don't take God, is like families, the devil attacks them or they get attacked. The family is under attack. And yet still we know that the family is essential. Food that grows from the ground and from trees. Those who are so greedy for money can decide that they're going to slow down that crop and speed up that crop and genetically engineer that crop. And now there's so much going on with food that you don't even know what you're eating sometimes. And then worship. I remember the Hebrew boys in Daniel, the book of Daniel in the Bible, when Nebuchadnezzar had the dream and knew about the statue and all the different epochs that were going to come by, the different dynasties that were going to take over. And he decided, I'm not having that. They're going to worship me. And he wanted it only for him. And we've got this twist on worship nowadays. And even pregnancy, you can get an abortion on the national health. The world has become confused by its greatness, the things that it's been able to achieve, to the extent that things are being used for destructive purposes, which is very sad.
Yeah,
okay. It's very sad.
Okay, so I'm getting the very clear message from you, Beulah, that we're heading on a downward course, regardless of science and scientific knowledge. Yes.
Well, that's how it feels, because attempts to make this world a better place has resulted in wars, genocide, ethnic cleansing, germ warfare, stealing people's land, oppressing people at the expense of one society on top of another. But yet still on the other side, people have been like, slavery was ended in 18 whenever. That's why I can sit here and talk. Some of us have personal experiences that major things were changed. And so the best of humanity seeks to heal and restore, but their work is often hampered by those who are greedy and cruel.
Yes. So we have the rule of law, we have society, we have social structures, we have science, the academic realm. Philosophy is also the art of thinking right, or thinking to try and identify the underlying truths, the basic truths, answering those questions like, who am I?
Yes.
How did I get here? And then where am I going? What's the purpose and meaning of life? So I'm getting the impression that you feel that Boris Johnson or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or the NHS, national local government, just can't find the solutions to our fundamental questions. Is that what I'm getting from you? We need to look elsewhere. Perhaps.
I have to add the tag, without God. They can find it, but without God, they're not going to have a very good journey in that respect. And the challenges will be insurmountable.
Yeah.
Without God.
Okay, so let's move to the third question then. Why does religion teach that God will destroy the world and create it anew?
Well, you have to know a bit of the Bible for that, because what's really important to know is that sin, I think everybody has to agree that something is ravaging this world and destroying it piece by piece. The biblical worldview says it's sin. That sin is desensitizing people. When we think about, we see the refugees dying in the seas, and people only see them as a nuisance now. We become so desensitized to human tragedy. Sin is just destroying this world. And the Lord has said he'll let sin finish its course. It started, he's going to let it finish its course, run its full course. And those, Christ told us that, he said, don't let your heart be troubled. Just believe in him and believe in God. And he said he's gone to prepare a place and he will come back and take us to that place. And when God created this world, from a biblical view, when he created this world, he created it to be a beautiful place where we would live in peace. And sin entered, and by faith, those of us who believe that the story have accepted that sin entered and things went downhill. And they've been going downhill ever since. And they've gone so bad that God is saying now he's going to make a new earth. But he's so good that he says he's not going to destroy all human beings. He's going to say, those of you who want to believe and do my will, you will live in the new earth. And I think that's a fair choice. It's a choice that I make. It's not that I'm forced. Mm-hmm. So the destruction of the world is only so that a new one can be created that removes all pain. There's a lovely verse in Revelation that said, there'll be no more death or mourning or crying, for the older things will have passed away. And we'll be living in the earth made new. And so that is the only way out of this situation, because it's gone out of hand. It's gotten right out of hand. And now we're living in very troubled times. I mean, last year, this time, the world, apart from Brexit, looked a good place. Apart from the challenges that Brexit was giving us, it was going okay. It was bumping along okay. And then COVID-19 comes, and it's like, it's totally turned the world upside down. So all those who have contributed to making this world a wonderful place without God have found that it's just slipped away from out of their hands. It's just gone. But it's of their own making, because COVID-19 was not an act of God, it was man-made. Mm-hmm. So they can't even blame it on God and say God did this, because it's man-made. But if they don't believe in God, then I don't know how else they will explain certain things. So the earth has to be made new, but at least we don't all get destroyed. And I think that says something great about God and how loving God is.
Yes, I see. And where would we have to go to find evidence or truths that have given you this hope and given you this assurance? I can see that you don't have hope in political leaders or science, but where would we go to find that peace that you evidently have found?
First of all, I find it by my research of this book, the Bible. I researched the Bible. And from that research, I am given clear information that I've been able to verify with my own lifestyle. And there's a passage in the Bible, in the Psalms 19, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. So the world around us shows us that God is real. He made the birds. When I see the thousands of different birds, just birds, and the colors, and then when you look at flowers, I can't accept that these things are an accident. I just can't accept that. My mind tells me that the logic of it, if I'm going to go logical, is that these things were created. It's like I drive I drive a very humble BMW, as you all know. I've been driving it for 10 years. So, and you know, I've been able to keep it on the road. Now, if I said to somebody that it just appeared on my drive, you know, and I don't give BMW the credit for making it, and I just say, well, it just appeared, you know, that's it. It just appeared. Then you would all be kind of wishing me well and taking me to somewhere to rest my weary head.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't look at a bird, I can't look at myself and say I just appeared. I have to have been created, just like my BMW was designed and put together, you know, and now it runs very nicely for me. And so I, along with yourselves and everybody else, we were created, we were designed, we are amazing. And that ingenuity that was in creating us has to be from a being that is higher than we are.
That's right.
I
So,
know that
sorry, Beulah. Yeah, I just wanted to tease out another question from you. So I can see you getting excited about the truth that you've discovered in the Bible, and you believe in the Bible and that it's the Word of God. How does belief in Jesus, believe in God, our Creator, affect your relationship in the world and your relationship with one another? Because obviously you've said the world needs recreation. It needs to be put right because it's going downhill in your view. And I would agree with that. But how does your belief now in God and the Bible affect your relationship with the world around you and with each other?
It has a very positive impact, because the Bible tells me that God wants everybody to be saved. He doesn't want to destroy human beings. He wants to destroy sin, not human beings, because he loves us. And that's why he's waiting for us to come to him. And so my faith causes me to look at every human being with the greatest of respect, because God created me and God created them. And I have to respect who he created. He says that we should love him and love others as we love ourselves. So I've had the three things to do. I have to learn to love God, learn to love others, and learn to love myself. And I teach that as an educator. When I'm teaching self-esteem, I'm teaching it through the lens of the biblical worldview. And I'm saying, God says you've got to learn to love yourself so that you can love others. You've got to learn how to do that. It's not an innate ability. It's something that we have to learn to do. And I am fascinated by that. And that has caused me to be a kinder person, a patient person, a more willing person to support others. It's given me that impetus to help and to be there for others, because I see everybody in the world as of value and of worth. They are my brother, they are my sister. And so I think that it's caused me to have a real different approach to life. So I'm very thankful for it. I can see that the 2 minutes are remaining. So what I'm saying is that this question about the new God creating a new world, it's for you and me. It's not because he wants to destroy us. It's because he wants us to live in peace, in joy, and in happiness. And I'm looking forward to that.
Amen.
I'm looking forward to that.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Beulah, your thoughts on those fundamental questions. And we've just got a minute or so left. I would just like to leave us with this thought as well. There is a text in the Bible that you showed us on the screen in Proverbs 23, verse 7, which says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. There is a Christian author that I did read, but I do read, continue to read, and I read this quotation that she wrote some years ago, and she said, she wrote, right thinking lies at the root of right action.
Amen.
And so we are all encouraged to think about those fundamental questions and to think about the world around us and who we are, and to think where truth is found. And I would like to encourage us all to pick up our Bibles and to discover the truth for ourselves, because I believe that we can only find the truth as we search for it with all our heart and with all our mind. So may God bless you. And I want to hand over back now to Leroy Taylor, who will take us to our close. Over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beulah.
Okay, thanks for that, Alan, and thank you, Beulah, for your contribution. Well, that concludes our presentations, and as usual, there's been plenty for us to think about, and if need be, to take on board to promote healthier minds and bodies. And as we close, I'd quickly like to say some thank yous. First, a big thank you to you, the viewers, who have regularly tuned in. Just a few statistics for you. During our first week, we had 655 views, and in week 2, approximately up to now, we've had 593 views, with a total of 1,248 views, and that probably doesn't include multiple users on each of the platforms. So thank you to you, our viewers, for tuning in. Secondly, to our presenters, we've had on the physical health, Jackie, Dr. Shyam, Dr. Alfred, and Dr. Mawimbi. On mental health, we've had Dr. Magna Parks Porterfield from the US, Dr. David Adjo, and Paul Elliston. And for our philosophical questions, we have had 10 different individuals, which have included those chairing and those answering the questions, including tonight's Alan and Beulah. So thank you to all of you. A big thank you goes out to the Zoom tech team, who behind the scenes have kept things flowing. You may have noticed the very smooth transitions that we've had between speakers. So we send out a very big thank you and our grateful thanks to all the technical team who've been working hard behind the scenes, and also to Michael Danzy, who created the promotional materials that we have been using. Juliet and Les, thank you so much for chairing so ably the physical and mental health seminars. And a big thank you to the members of the Manchester North Seventh-day Adventist Church for your support. So, what's next? We are already thinking about next year, and based on your feedback and current trends, we will be back with more informative seminars. So keep looking out for details on the Total Transformation website. Finally, I'd just like to remind all presenters and chairs to meet in the breakout room at the end of this program. So, all that's left for me to say is thank you once again to all for tuning into these seminars, and I hope to see you all again fairly soon. Good night and keep safe.